We're on page 118. If anybody wants to have a look, page 118. We've reached the end of the Shemoneh. So we've reached the end of the Amidah. We've gone through all of the brachas, and then bless you. And then we've got a final paragraph. We say the final bracha of Baruch Atah Hashem Amavarich Es Amo Yisrael B'Shalom, that we're blessing. The Jewish people should be blessed with peace and with tranquility. And then, you would imagine that really needs to be the end of the Amidah. We should be done. Here, the last paragraph is a very telling paragraph. It's very different from the rest of the Amidah. First of all, where does it come from? So the Gemara brings a whole series of different paragraphs that were written, authored by different Tanoim, different rabbis in the Gemara. What's the function of it? Well, you're standing in front of the divine presence when you're praying the Amidah, and it's an idea of not wanting to let go a little bit more, right? It's almost as if, you have an audience with the president of the United States, like a delegation. You all come together, and after your audience is over, you stick around for a few minutes afterwards and say to them, listen, hey, could you take care of my parking ticket, right? And that's exactly what you're doing over here with the last paragraph of the Amidah. Everything else in the Amidah is written in the plural. We're coming together, we're praying together, we're approaching God as like a delegation, really. I mean, that's the best way to describe it. The last paragraph is a few moments left, just you and God, and an opportunity to deal with very personal things. This is really the best place to deal with it in this paragraph over here. There's a whole series of different paragraphs that were written out. This is one that was chosen in the end to be used at the end of the Amidah. It's a very beautiful thing. Let's have a look and see. So first of all, we see straight away, we use the word Elokai. Elokai means my God. We're now shifting into the singular.
I understand the whole prayer is written in plural.
Yeah.
Like we're, as you said, as a delegation. How dare I step up now and ask for anything personal?
It's true. I don't think you should, actually. But everyone else can. Again, it's this idea of being able to spend a few moments in the presence of the Shekhinah, in the presence of the divine presence, in a very personal way, right? Which means it's true in a certain sense. What are you doing? You're using the fact that you've davened the Amidah in order to be able to do this now. And you're going into the singular, but there's no reason why anybody should not be able to approach the Shekhinah, the divine presence, on their own. I'm not sure I understand why you feel how dare you do such a thing. I mean, surely our avodas Hashem, when we're trying to build up our relationship with God, that's really what we're supposed to be trying to do, to turn it into a very personal relationship. Anyway, Elokai, my God, Netzol Shani Mira, guard my tongue from evil. Now, it's interesting, right? We started off the Amidah by saying Hashem Sefatai Tiftach, asking God to open our mouths in order to be able to pray properly. And we finish off the Amidah by asking God to let us use our mouths correctly. Netzor l'shoni mira, guard my tongue from evil. Shlomo Melech, King Solomon, says that the tongue is the life and death come from the tongue. Right? Which means that we can say things which can destroy and we can say things which can build, and we have to learn how to speak properly. There's a medrash. The medrash says a very, very fascinating story that all of the parts of the body, there's a larger story that's involved. I don't want to go into all the details right now, but all the parts of the body were beginning to have a discussion about who was more important, who was the most important organ in the body. And each part of the body says it's me. The legs say it's me because I take you to where you need to go to, and the reproductive organ says it's me because without me there'll be no future generations. And the heart says no, it's me because if I don't pump, everything will stop working. And then the tongue says no, it's me. And all the others say, who needs you? What are you talking about? Yeah, you're an idiot. You be quiet. And anyway, they get to some very sensitive mission that they've been sent on. And as they stand up over there, the tongue starts speaking words that are really rather offensive, and the person gets thrown into jail, and has been, have a death sentence has been passed upon the person, and all the bits of the body are saying to the tongue, look, you idiot, what are you doing? Why did you do that? And he says, look, I told you I was the most important organ in the body, right? You all thought you were more important, but look, I'm the one that can get you killed, and I'm the one that can get you out of this as well. And they all decide that the tongue is the most important organ in the body, and that the tongue, when the person's pulled up in front of the king in order to find out why he did what he did, he explains why he said what he said in a completely different way, in a very positive way, and all of a sudden everything is now okay. Your tongue is a very, very offensive weapon, and it's got to be used very carefully. The Chafetz Chaim, one of the greatest rabbis from the post-war generation, the Chafetz Chaim wrote many books about the concept of what's called Shmirat HaLashon, looking after, guarding your tongue, making sure that you speak correctly. Interestingly enough, if you read through the halachas of Shmirat HaLashon, you might come to the conclusion that it's better not to speak. However, the Chafetz Chaim himself was known to be a great conversationalist. You would have thought that the Chafetz Chaim, who was this, major tzaddik, very, very righteous, very pious man, that people from all over Europe would come to him in order to get his blessings. You would imagine that he would sit quietly and wouldn't speak with people, and yet the Chafetz Chaim he really was a great conversationalist. The reason, of course, was because the Chafetz Chaim wanted to control the conversation to make sure he wasn't going to have to listen to anything that it was forbidden to listen to. They tell over a story that the Chafetz Chaim once got on a train. He was going from his hometown Radin, he was going off to a bigger city, and there were a bunch of Jewish horse traders on the train. And when the Chafetz Chaim got on, and he saw them all over there, he walked over to them and he said to them like this. He says, if we're talking about horses, count me in. But if you're talking about people, count me out. Right? We gotta learn how to use our tongues, when to use our tongues, right? The tongue is something which is extremely, extremely powerful, and something which we've got to be very careful with. So what do we say? Elokai, my God. Netzol shoni mira, right? Guard my tongue from evil. Usfatai midabe mirma, and my lips from speaking deceitfully. Now we spoke about this at the beginning when we said Hashem sefatai tiftach. Your lips are the final part of the whole process of speech, which means that once the words have gone past your lips, then that's it. They're out into the open. You can't hold them back. The Chafetz Chaim says it's interesting that speech, there are many different gates before you begin to speak that have to be opened. So first of all, your tongue is lying in a horizontal position. In order to speak, you've got to make it move. You've got your teeth, which is another gate, and your lips, which are another gate. We don't have that with our other organs. We don't have that incredible sense of having to pass through gates or filters in order to make sure that what we're saying is okay. So we say that we ask that our mouths, our tongues not be involved in evil, and our lips not speak things which are not true. And for those who curse me, let my soul be silent. And my soul should be like dust. What's the idea? The idea is like this. I think it's something very simple. It really is. It normally takes two to argue. It takes two to do lots of things, right?
Unless you've got a split personality, but that's another case entirely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It is true that there are certain people over here who seem to have no problems arguing with themselves, right? But for the rest of us that do not seem to have been blessed with a split personality, it takes two to argue. Which means somebody comes along and curses you out. The natural reaction for a person who's just been cursed like that is to retaliate in like, right? And that's how things begin. Then they begin to grow, and all of a sudden you've got something. You've got a feud which is far greater than it was. What would happen if the person doesn't retaliate? What happens if the person doesn't say anything back?
The guy who insulted you would be like, "What are you doing?"
At some point, it's like you can't argue with somebody who's not arguing back with you. Should try it one day. It's a lot of fun, actually. It really is. If you really want to get the guy worked up, it's like you did this and you did that and you. He's like, you're right, and you don't you. What do you say? I said, you're right. Oh, okay.
Looks away like a fool.
Yeah. So just, I don't know, it's a possibility. Again, it means going against your natural reaction. Your natural reaction is to defend yourself, and the way that you've been attacked, that's how you defend yourself. Somebody curses you out, you curse them back. Right? Over here, we're saying, no, you know what, I don't want to do that. Why is that? The Vilna Gaon says the most incredible thing. The Vilna Gaon says that when a person does not react to this kind of an embarrassing situation, a person doesn't react in like and try to get back at the person that did whatever they did to him, that person is privy to the most incredible spiritual realms. Which means all of a sudden, it's not just, we're not just doing this because it's like maybe it makes sense to do this and don't get involved in fights with other people, but by doing this, somebody who has been embarrassed and doesn't react to what the person has done to them, says the Vilna Gaon, is somebody who's going to receive the most tremendous spiritual rewards for what he's done. So all of a sudden, maybe it's not such a bad move after all, right? It's true. Maybe you'll look stupid momentarily in front of other people that are there. Why didn't you get him? Why didn't you tell him back? Why didn't you do this? But the bottom line is that ultimately, for sure, it's better under most circumstances not to react. And the reason why it's over here in this blessing over here is because it's hard not to react, and that's why we're asking God to help us out over here. And then we say a very beautiful line over here. It says, "Patach libi b'toratecha," open my heart to your Torah. Why would that be? Why do we ask God, "Patach libi b'toratecha," that God should open our hearts? So I tell you, the answer is very simple, because it's hard. It's hard to learn Torah. It's hard to want to learn Torah, and it's hard to sustain that desire to learn Torah on a continual basis. Right? Everybody here knows that, just as well as I know it, which means that however, you may have days which are easier and days which are harder. We all know that, right? So we say to God, "P'tach libi b'toratecha," please open my heart. Let me see the beauty of the Torah. Let me want to learn the Torah, your Torah. Uva mitzvotecha tidof nafshi, and let my nefesh, let my soul pursue your mitzvahs. Rav Chaim Volozhiner writes, very interesting thing. He says, why do we have this? It's an interesting lashon. It says, it's an interesting language, that let my soul pursue your commandments. Lirdof. Why do you have to pursue the commandments? You stop and think about it for a minute. There are so many commandments in our day, right? Where do you have to go? You have to go running. You don't have to go running after them. They're there, right? They're just waiting for you to come and take them. So why do we have to? Why does it say "O mitzvotecha tidof nafshi"? Explains Rav Chaim Volozhiner like this: your body and your soul are two very opposite dimensions, and your body encases your soul. Your soul is inside of your body, which means that your body here in the physical world has ascendancy over the soul. And if that's the case, your body doesn't really want to do the mitzvot. Your soul wants to do the mitzvot, but your body's not that excited about it. And we have to push our bodies. We have to make our bodies pursue the mitzvot in order to get the body to want to do it. You know what? It's a little bit like this. Anybody here, if you've ever had the misfortune of joining a gym, right, and having to do exercise, HaKadosh Baruch Hu should spare you such terrible experiences. But if everybody always says that the hardest part of exercising is getting on the bike, getting on the exercise bike. But once you're on it, so then everything, it'll start to work the way that it's supposed to. But it's that moment of convincing yourself that this is really what you want to do. Right? speak to people, people that take their exercise very, very seriously. And everyone say the same thing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good or how bad you are at exercise. The most difficult part of the exercise is beginning. Once you've begun, the body kicks in and things start to work the way that they're supposed to work. So it says, "Uva mitzvotzecha tirdof nafshi." We've got to get ourselves into the mindset of making ourselves want to do the mitzvahs. Right? Like we make ourselves want to do exercise. Once we've done it, the body will begin to cooperate together with the soul, and everything will be a lot easier. V'chol hachoshvim alai ra. Anybody who feels bad about me, anyone who thinks badly of me, you should make sure that whatever horrible little plans they've got should be got rid of. You know what you're doing? It's very interesting, right? You're asking God to take care of all of these things. Which means if there are people who think badly about me, then God should take care of their nasty little machinations and all of their little plots and their plans in order that I shouldn't be hurt from all of this. And then there's a little phrase over here, which is something actually quite fascinating. We'll see that Nusach Sfard, which is a Hasidic Nusach, is very slightly different. But we say like this, Aseh leman shmecha, that all of this we should do, act for your name's sake. Aseh leman yeminecha, act for your right hand's sake. Again, we're talking about over here the right hand of God, the hand of compassion. Aseh leman kedushatecha, that you should do this for the sake of the sanctity. Aseh leman toratecha, and you should do it for the sake of your Torah. Right? There's a gradation, which means Aseh leman shmecha, that's at the bottom. Aseh leman yeminecha, that's a slightly higher. Aseh leman kedushatecha, do it for the sanctity, the holiness, that's higher, and then Aseh leman toratecha, that's the highest of all. In the Nusach Sfard, the Hasidic Nusach, the words kedushatecha and toratecha are swapped around. Which means it says Aseh leman shemecha, Aseh leman yeminecha, and then it says Aseh leman toratecha, and then Aseh leman kedushatecha. I think there's a very, very interesting, very telling concept over here. The difference between the two. What are you placing on the top? Are you placing Torah on the top? Or are you placing Kedusha? Are you placing holiness on the top?
Kedusha.
Right. So in Nusach Sfard, it's Kedusha. In Nusach Ashkenaz, it's Torah. And I think that very much fits in with the ideologies of the Ashkenazi and the Sephardi approach. I'm sorry, not the Sephardi, the Hasidic approach to Avodas Hashem, which means in the Ashkenazi world, the Torah was the highest level that a person could reach of connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which means that's the highest level over here as well, Kedusha and then Torah. But in the Hasidic world, the highest level that a person could reach was a level of what's called Kedusha, of sanctity, of holiness. Right, by the Hasidim, it's a big thing, the idea of a tzaddik and going to a tzaddik and getting a blessing, which in the olden days, in the Lithuanian world, in the world of Ashkenazi Jewry, it was a lot less done. It wasn't so much the norm. It's interesting, until today, the difference between, if you want to go to a famous Hasidic tzaddik, then it's very easy to do. You go, you write out your name, it's called writing out a kvittel. You write out your name, and you write out, the blessing that you would like, and you give it in to you don't necessarily get to see the person at all. You give it in to the person who's looking after the tzaddik, and he brings the name, and he'll look at the name, and he'll make a blessing for you. In the Ashkenazi world, in the Lithuanian world, it's not like that. You have to go. You go to the Rebbe himself. You go to the Rav, and you ask for a blessing, and you got to come up with something to say in order to have a reason why you're there. It's a different approach, it really is. In the Lithuanian world, in the Ashkenazi world, the pursuit of Torah is the ultimate level that a person can have. Right? In the Hasidic world, it's a pursuit of spirituality, of holiness, that is the highest level that a person can have. Again, we're talking the difference between the two is very subtle, right? Because in the Ashkenazi world, obviously, Kedusha is required to receive Torah. That's the order. In the Hasidic world, if you've got the Torah, then you can reach the level of Kedusha, of holiness. Right? Why is all of this? Leman yilchatzun yididecho hoshia yamincha va'aneni. Right? In order that what? That we can respond, that we can have a relationship with God. The whole function of what we're doing is all of this is coming at the end of the Amidah, because the Amidah itself was being built around the idea of your relationship with God. So all of this is being done in order to be able to build up that relationship with God, right? So far, so good. Now, if you take a look in the art scroll over here, it says that some recite verses pertaining to their names at this point. And on page 924, they've got a long list of verses that begin with the first letter of your Hebrew name and end with the last letter of your Hebrew name. What are they there for? So the Chafetz Chaim explains something really rather odd. When you hear it the first time, it sounds very strange. But a person recites a verse over and over whilst he's praying. Each time he prays the Amidah, he recites a verse that corresponds to his name, in order that when he gets upstairs at the age of 120, he'll remember his name. Yeah, that's right. Here, let's have a look. Just so you know what, let's have a quick look over here. Moshe's busy.
What page is it?
924. Here, Moshe. Right, yours is going to be on.
I know mine, but
what?
it's different than the one that's written here.
Okay, so over here it says Machshavot be'etzatikon uvatchit bulut aseh milchama. What's your verse? What do you know?
Min ha'metzar karatia.
Oh yeah. Okay, that's a lot easier actually.
Yeah.
Page 924, page 925, page 926. What other names have we got over here? Moshe, you're another Moshe. So that's what's your Hebrew name? Baruch.
Your Hebrew name is Baruch. I thought it was Binyamin.
Oh, look at that! You're quick off the mark over there, huh? Here, the word Baruch. If you look about just less than halfway down, page 924, it's got Bet and Chav. Baruch atah Hashem lamdeni chukecha. The first word begins with a Bet. The last word begins with a Chav. Now, what have we got? You know your Hebrew name?
Yeah.
What is it?
Michael Melech.
Michal Melech. They should call you Melech Michal, no? It would have made more sense. Where is Michal? Here, down at the bottom of page 925, about 3/4 of the way down. Ma toivo alecha Yaakov, mishkanatecha Yisrael. Begins with a mem, ends with a lamed. That's a very beautiful pasuk. That's a pasuk that Bilam blesses the Jewish people with. Now, what else have we got? Who are you? What's your Hebrew name?
Binyamin.
Ridiculous. Couldn't you come up with something more original than that?
It wasn't my idea. That's
Bet
just
nun.
how you pronounce
Baruch
the name.
Hashem Elokei Yisrael me'haolam v'ad olam. Amen. Ave Amen.
What does that say?
About halfway down the first page. Bet nun. You see it?
Bet Nun.
Here, Gavriel. You know what your pasuk is?
No.
Here. Gam ani oidecha b'chlin nevel amitecha Elokai az amra lecha b'chino kadosh Yisrael. Serves you right. I think you've got the longest one over here. I think.
Shorter for me.
No, that's. Just be thankful that it's not even longer.
Is that mem hey?
What do all these things mean?
Comes from Tehillim. What do they all mean? They mean different things. They've got different insights into a person's name, which means if you take a look down here, it'll tell you where it's coming from. You could look it up and you could try to work out what the connection is between the name and the, I don't know, perhaps the spiritual dimension behind it.
Is that the one?
Where? Here, Moshe, what's...
Was that mem hey?
Mem Hey is about 2/3 of the way down on 925.
Machshavos?
Yeah. Here, but here, Moshe over here has got he's got an easier verse to remember,
It's
right?
a good one.
Yeah, are you kidding? Min ametza karasika, right? That from the depths I called out to you. It's a lot. It's a
No,
lot.
but what is that? The machshavos and then something about milchama. I don't understand that part.
No, it says like this: Machshavot be'etzatikon uvetachpulot aseh milchama. Right, where's it coming from? From Mishlei. So I need to look over there and see exactly what the context of the verse is. Obviously, obviously I know, but I'm not going to show off and tell you, right? Do your own work. Here, what's your Hebrew name? Oh, another one?
Yeah.
What's going on over here?
Ben, and
There's
Ben.
4 bands here.
And then Ben.
It's like an epidemic.
I know.
4 bands, 2 washers.
When Ben
What does that
ruled
mean?
them
We
all.
should remember our name.
Oh, so said the Chofetz Chaim like this. This stuff is terrifying, absolutely terrifying. Are you people ready? I love saying terrifying things. I like spreading it around and sharing this stuff with people. Says the Chofetz Chaim like this. You say this pasuk that when you get upstairs at the age of 120 and you come in front of the heavenly court, that you'll remember your name.
We won't remember our name whenever we go up there if we don't say this?
Oh, so I don't know. It's interesting. You would have thought that, like maybe the one thing that you would remember is your name, right? That's like a pretty fundamental dimension of who you are, isn't it? And yet, that's what the Chofetz Chaim does. And he explains like this. He says, this is awful, it really is. He says that when a person speaks Lashon Hara about somebody else, when a person speaks badly about somebody else, so that person, that the person who spoke the Lashon Hara is going to receive the sins of the other person that he spoke about. And the person that he spoke about is going to receive the mitzvot that the person who spoke about him has done. Right? Now that means that when you get upstairs into the world of truth, you're going to be met with a whole bunch of mitzvot that you never knew you did. It's nothing to do with me. And God's going to say, no, it's okay. He spoke about you, and he spoke about you, and he spoke about you, and that's why you've got all these mitzvot. That's okay. That's the good part, right? The problem is that you're going to get met with a whole bunch of averot, of sins that you never did. I can't think of anything worse than being judged for all these delightful sounding sins, but you never did them. You couldn't even enjoy them, right? And you've got this whole pile of sins over there, and you're like, hey, these aren't mine. And God's going to say, no, it's okay. When you spoke Lashon Hara about this fellow over here, so you got his sins. Let's just hope he did some interesting stuff, right? Otherwise, it could be pretty boring, right? But you hear that, it's the most incredible thing he says. He says, what's the problem? He says, when you get up there and you're met with all these mitzvot and all these averot that you're not familiar with, you'll forget who you are. You've lost your identity. Says the Chofetz Chaim that saying this verse allows you to hold on to your identity somehow. You'll say the verse, wow, Minam Meitza, Karati Ka, and then you'll say to yourself, hold on a second, Mem, hey, I'm Moshe. Yeah.
You're looking at me like I'm about to say something stupid.
No.
Anyways. What if someone made teshuva for speaking Lashon Hara?
Oh, good.
Does it correct itself?
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. Which means that once you've gone through the process of teshuva, then you don't have to worry about this stuff.
Okay.
Again, the process of tshuva for Lashon Hara is something which is not so simple.
Yeah.
Because it means going to the person and saying, look, I apologize. I said this about you, and I didn't mean to. Rabbi Salanter says the most incredible thing over here. I said, what about the person never knew? The person never knew. And now you're going to go and you're going to tell him, hey, I told everyone that you're a big fat cow. Right? He's going to get upset, unless he is a big fat cow. But I don't know why you would be talking to a big fat cow. That's ridiculous, right? But the person's going to get upset. So it says Avisol Salantra, if that's the case, if he never knew, and by telling him he's going to get upset, you're better off not telling him. So it says Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, but if that's the case, then you can't do tshuva properly for what you've done. You can't repent properly for what you've done. He says that's true. But the feelings of the other person are more important than your going through that whole process of teshuva. I mean, personally, after you hear all these things and you learn all these things, I think it probably makes more sense just to speak nicely about people. I really do. That's my personal opinion, right? And
go by your mother's saying. You don't have anything nice to say. Don't say anything at all.
Oh, my mother never told me that. She just said, even if you've got something nice to say, don't say it.
Oh, okay. That's good too.
And then we say, And then the end of the Amidah, we take 3 steps back and we bow to one side and we say, "Oh, you say Shalom bin Moimov," and then we bow to the right hand side and we say, "Oh, Yaseh Shalom Aleinu Yal Kol Yisrael Amen," and we bow to the middle. And we've come to the end of the Amidah. Says Rav Chaim Volozhin, a very, very beautiful idea. He says, "Oh, you say Shalom." Now, God's going to make peace. What do we do before we make that statement of God making peace? Is we take 3 steps back. Says Rav Chaim Volozhin that in order to make peace between people, normally the first thing you got to do is just step back a little bit. Right? You ever notice when you got 2 people that they're nose to nose, they're about to start beating each other up. You want to help out the situation, right? Put yourself in the middle. Just push them away a little bit, one from the other. That way, hopefully, they'll calm down enough, and if they don't, they'll both beat you up instead. But that's okay. It's character building, right? But says Rav Chaim Volozhin, in order to reach a level of reaching shalom, of peace, you know what? Just move back. Take a moment. Take a deep breath. Count to 3 million or something, and you'll see that whatever it was that you were about to react to in such a negative way doesn't deserve that kind of a reaction. Okay, I'm going to take this as stunned silence, right? Because there's no other way to look at it, really, right? And we're gonna stop over here. Mitzvah Hashem. Everyone should have a wonderful Shabbos. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shalom.
It should be
Shalom,
uplifting
Rabbi.
and inspiring, and it should be a gastronomic delight.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, for you that just means a cup of tea, right? But
Cup of tea is, if it's a quality cup of tea, is indeed a gastronomic delight.
there you go. And
But
if
so
it's-
is food.